More than 10 years ago, I was the target of a massive hate campaign that started out online, but quickly moved into the real world as people tried to swat me and my family, threatened to sexually assault, rape, and/or murder me, and blackballing me from the lecture circuit where I got most of my rent money at that time. It was a whole thing. I won't bother you with the details, but if you want to hear more about it, you can read this write-up I did in Slate at the time. I have a really thick skin. It's a point of pride for me. It's my superpower. But I have to admit that as the campaign dragged on for months and escalated to the point where I had to hire private security to give talks, mainly thanks to just one guy who eventually went to prison for shoving his own mother down the stairs. That's fun. It eventually did get to me. I noticed that I was experiencing really severe stomach cramps and nausea that made it really difficult to eat or to do much of anything besides curl into the fetal position and cry a little. But that wasn't a big deal because I knew what was wrong. Many years prior to that, when I was finishing up my last year of college and trying to leave a really horrific boyfriend who I lived and worked with, the exact same thing happened. I went to a doctor who told me that I had acid reflux. So he prescribed me a medication called Prevacid, and that took the pain away almost immediately. And when my prescription of that ran out, I had graduated from college, quit my job, dumped my boyfriend, and moved to the other side of the country with no health insurance. So I just stopped taking it, but the pain didn't come back. Solved. So I marched off to a doctor for this round, described my problem, and asked him for a prescription for Prevacid. The new doctor patiently explained that there were a few problems with my request. For a start, Prevacid was now available without a prescription. I could just go to the store and get it. Secondly, he said it was pretty obvious to him that my problem was not acid reflux. My problem was debilitating anxiety, which led to acid reflux. And I said, oh, well, that's fine. A friend of mine once gave me half a Xanax, and it was awesome. So I'll take one prescription of those, please. Thank you. And he said, abso-fucking-lutely not. I'm putting you on an anti-anxiety antidepressant called escitalopram, also known as Lexapro. And I fought back. I argued I didn't need to take a pill every day when the anxiety only became overwhelming once every other day or so, sometimes just a couple times a week. But he convinced me, try it for a month or so, see what happens. You guys, that man changed my life. I came back a few weeks later. He asked me how things were going, and I said, this pill fixed things that I didn't even know were wrong. And he was curious to know more. So I described how I used to regularly lie in bed at night, and a thought would pop into my head that I was going to die one day, and there was nothing I could do about it. And despite the fact that I know there's nothing I can do about it, I would spend the rest of the night freaking out about it. I just figured that that's the human condition. It happens to everyone who doesn't believe in an afterlife. But after a few weeks on this pill, the same thought would occasionally pop into my head, but then I would go, oh, well, and I'd roll over and go to sleep. Like, wow. I'm still on that same minimum dose of escitalopram more than a decade later. I tell you all of this not to say that fixing mental health issues is always that easy. Lots of my friends had to try several different medications and toy with the dosage and deal with nasty side effects, and some of them still haven't found a solution that works for them. And it's not to say that medications like escitalopram or other SSRIs, as they're known, aren't being improperly or even overly prescribed. Maybe they are. That's a complicated subject that is currently debated amongst experts. All I'm saying is that for me personally, this particular SSRI has greatly increased my quality of life with zero negative side effects thus far. And I'm not the only one. Systematic reviews like this one from Cochrane consistently find that SSRIs and tricyclic antidepressants are effective for treating conditions like depression in high-quality studies compared to placebo. We still don't know how exactly they work. Recent research suggests that it's not simply thanks to boosting one of those S's, serotonin, but they absolutely do work for many people just like me. And so For me, if, say, a brainworm piloting a Nepo baby flesh mecha tries to take them away from me, I will personally take up arms and form a militia to unseat the fascist regime. Or I'll curl into the fetal position and give myself alcohol poisoning. One or the other. I haven't gone more than a few days without the SSRI in all this time, so I'm honestly not sure which way it's going to go. Anyway, yes, I'm talking about all of this today because the Republicans are absolutely, without a doubt, coming for the medications we use to manage our mental health in the same way that they're coming for birth control and vaccines. And they've flipped a coin to determine how they're going to do it. Is it to stop terrorism or to save the children? The coin landed on save the children, which is lucky for them because they've been blaming mental illness for the past several decades of domestic terrorism. So taking away our happy brain drugs would be a tough sell in that light. They will be saving the children this time by reconsidering whether or not pregnant people should be allowed to take SSRIs, starting with a panel stacked with people who support RFK's idea of science, which is to say, morons. 9 of the 10 people on the panel did nothing but fearmonger and lie about the effectiveness of SSRIs, while the 10th, the only person present who actually specialized in the topic at hand, tried in vain to argue for the actual science, which shows SSRIs to be safe, effective, and overall the less risky choice for many depressed people who would otherwise be at high risk of completely losing it thanks to pregnancy hormones. The others insisted with just as much of a sense of authority and certainty that the medications were ineffective and that they caused miscarriages, hemorrhaging, autism, ADHD, cardiac birth defects, fetal alcohol syndrome, and other frightening outcomes. The president of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists responded by calling those claims outlandish and unfounded, because the consensus of experts have found that the only relatively common risk is that some newborns may experience a few days of poor sleep or inability to eat. And that would be stressful for new parents, absolutely, but not as stressful as going through a pregnancy with severe depression and suicidal ideation. The administration didn't just happen to compile a panel that was 90% fear-mongering about SSRIs. It's all part of their larger program of eugenics, in which it's perfectly fine that people die or are disabled by otherwise treatable conditions, because many of the Republicans now in charge genuinely believe that these people deserve it, and removing them from the population will improve humanity. Just like the Nazis. Those who don't genuinely believe that are happy to go along with it for no other reason than potential cost savings. Just like the Nazis. In case you aren't aware, it wasn't just Jewish people targeted by Nazis during the Holocaust. Atheists, homosexuals, transgender people, and yes, people with physical and mental disabilities were also killed. The Nazis established a database of people with disabilities, just like RFK Jr. has called for, and instituted the T4 program, which saw those deemed unworthy of life moved to death camps where they were gassed, shot, or injected with poison. Hundreds of thousands of people with disabilities were murdered. Another 300,000 to 400,000 were sterilized. But don't worry, I'm sure that can't happen here. In other news, a few days after the anti-SSRI panel, Donald Trump released an executive order titled Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets, in which he ordered RFK Jr. and the Attorney General to enact a policy of encouraging civil commitment of individuals with mental illness who pose risks to themselves or the public. You may have heard about this particular EO as it relates to homelessness, because it's also trash in that regard, calling for homeless people to be disappeared into private facilities or who knows where. Also a Nazi thing. But this EO also plainly states that you can now be committed involuntarily to an asylum if some goon in a mask determines that you aren't, say, dealing well with the sudden loss of the medication that helps you live a full and happy life. So yeah, that's where we are at this point in America's fast track into fascism. If you are concerned about maintaining access to your medication, please talk to your doctor and to your Congress critter. Who knows if they'll do anything about it, but at least maybe you can annoy them a bit while they're on vacation doing whatever it is Congress critters do these days. Investing in private asylums would be my guess. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.